It's 6:04 on Monday, the 30th of September 2019. Good evening and thank you for tuning in to RTV Ora's English edition. My name is Alexandra, bringing you the only daily update of the local Albanian news translated into English. The Albanian Parliament addresses the European Union member states with a resolution to open negotiations with Albania on October 17 to 18, when the EU Council is expected to meet. Through this 10-point document, the Assembly is committed to ensuring a comprehensive dialogue on Albania's integration, but not exceeding the Albanian constitution and institutions. The legislature expresses its full will to advance reforms in a cross-party spirit and in full cooperation with civil society. The Assembly also urges the Albanian institutions to undertake their responsibilities for the performance of their duties in order to fulfil the recommendations of the Council of Europe. Meanwhile, in spite of the Parliament's willingness for a comprehensive dialogue to move the country forward for negotiations, the fight between the Socialist Party and the President's institution continues. It will be the chair of the Socialist Party's parliamentary group, Talont Bala, who will defend the SP's interest of dismissing the President following the cancellation of elections in the Venice Commission, which will take place on October 11 and 12. Meanwhile, President Ilir Meta himself spoke to Ora News 2 days ago, saying that October 11th is over and anyone running to this date only wants the crisis deepened. On October 11 and 12, when the final opinion is expected to be adopted, not only President Ilir Meta, but also the leader of the Socialist Party parliamentary group, Talont Bala, will be included in the Venice Commission. After this moment, the Albanian Parliament is expected to make a decision on Ilir Meta's future. It needs 94 votes, which the Socialists can secure only with the consensus of the new opposition. Alban Zanelli, who is the chair of the Inquiry Commission and part of the Democratic Party's parliamentary group, says the decision will not be based on mere statements, but also an analysation of the facts. Regarding electoral reform, Alban Zanelli said the opposition would not issue any document that comes as a result of a bargaining agreement between the Democratic Party and the Socialist Party. Following denunciations made by the Democratic Party, the high level of expenses incurred by Tirana's deputy mayor, Arbian Mazniku, have begun to be investigated by the prosecution. For 90 minutes, Tirana's deputy mayor, Arbian Mazniku, answered questions about charges for hotel bills in Barcelona, which the opposition says equates to around €900 per night. At the conclusion of the interrogation, Mazniku told the media that he appeared before the prosecution to explain the truth. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to provide the proper information to the Tirana Prosecution Office regarding a case that has been debated in the media recently. The best thing to do for all whistleblowers and those who deal with fake news is to give the information to justice and then to give the opportunity for justice to determine the facts. These facts will be explained by the truth, said Mazniku. Tirana's prosecution launched an investigation following media reports from the Democratic Party that the owner and administrator of the Fusha company had paid the bill for Vice Mayor Mazniku. Immediately after the questioning of the suspect, the former minister Peleshi appeared in the prosecution, who responded to prosecutors for an hour regarding the silicon mix scandal. The Albanian economy has begun to feel the negative effects of the completion of large investment projects. Instac Director in Office, Elsi Dhuli, stated that in the second quarter, the economic growth was only 2.31%, while as of 6 months, it is estimated to be 2.36%, or half of last year, which was the highest of the last decade, with 4.06%. Compare this to the second quarter of 2018, which saw an increase of 2.31%, with the main contribution to this growth being provided by branches such as trade, transport, accommodation and food service, said Elsi Dhula. It appears that the completion of the TAP pipeline project, the decline in power generation and the closure of gambling venues all contributed to the situation. Electricity has had its downward impact for the second quarter of 2019 compared to the second quarter of 2018, in which electricity had fallen by 1 percentage point. Regarding the entertainment sector, the betting closure is what has made the main contribution in this quarter. Construction is an activity associated with the closure of business processes by TAP, said El Siduli. Even the international financial institutions, such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, have warned that economic growth in the country is projected to be below 4% during 2019 and 2020. After nearly a year of investigation, the only 3 defendants charged with loading 613 kilograms of cocaine seized in February last year in a banana container which arrived at the port of Durrës are expected to be acquitted of the final verdict of the Serious Crimes Court. At Monday's hearing, which was the first to adjudicate the case, the trio of judges decided to accept the summary judgment for the 3 defendants and invited the prosecution to give final conclusions at the hearing on the 15th. According to the case prosecutor, Arbor Cekai, the owner of the Arbor Garden Company, had the role of transporting narcotics from Colombia to Albania, while the 2 defendants were selected by him to take the cargo from Durrës, sending them to the warehouse in Siak, where they were transported and seized by the police. But the lawyer for the driver, Armando Pezacu, and company manager, Donald Lushai, said in court that they had nothing to do with the drug load and further accused the prosecution of interrupting the operation without letting the drug reach its final destination. They sought evidence linking the accused to each other in the form of a structured group. Managers Donald Lushai and Armando Pezacu, the truck driver who transported the bananas and cocaine containers to the Arbor Garden warehouses in Maminas, where police seized €180 million worth of cocaine, were arrested. The so-called winter movement schedule by civilians at the Pasha Liman US Army base has rallied employees and entrepreneurs operating in the Karabarun Peninsula for 4 days in protest. According to the regulation, they are allowed to run from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m, but they do not agree with this schedule and love the off-season. The Ministry of Defence points out that these schedules have already been implemented. Fishermen, employees and business owners operating on the Karabarun Peninsula are not finding solutions. They protested early in the morning near the Pasha Limani base by blocking the road for several hours. The base regulation during the summer permits their movement with special permits from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and during the winter period from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But since Friday, the official winter schedule began to apply and they are not allowed to cross the main gate of the military base beyond these hours. Business representatives say their work cannot be scheduled. On the other hand, the Ministry of Defence clarifies that these schedules have always been in power and beyond them, any movement must be carried out with special authorisation. Now, in the 4th day of the protest, they demand a revision of the timetable to avoid them violating the security of the military base. Otherwise, they warn that they will escalate the protest until the movement to the Pasha Liman military base is blocked. The new ruling penalises about 200 employees of several dozen businesses and fishermen. Meanwhile, the leaders of the military base are required to implement the rules and schedules as set out by the Ministry of Defence. Business has once again called for the creation of a stock market and investment scheme for the country. The head of the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nicolin Yakai, said that borrowing and lending remained the status quo and therefore appealed to take advantage of the opportunities provided by the global economy. The head of the Financial Supervisory Authority, Ervin Kochi, urged investors to be careful with investments in cooperation with other entities. Investor Week will continue with other stakeholder meetings to disseminate investor protection education messages as well as to inform of key market issues. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and please join us again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of RTV Ora News, thank you and good night.